Banaffe abasuubuzi bali mu mbeera nzibu ebaleetedde okuggalawo emirimu gyabwe. Ng'embeera eyo kusinziira ku bye boogera era nga bituufu eva ku misolo egiteereddwa ku bintu okubeera egyewaggulu ennyo nannyo nga gikosa abakola n'obusente obutono be basinze okukosebwa. So emisolo giri waggulu naye n'ekyokubiri engeri gye gisoloozebwamu nagyo gyeyongedde okuba zitoyerera kubanga aba gavumenti baagala bu bizinesi bw'abantu baffe busolooze emisolo ku lwabwe naye nga mu kugisolooza be balina okuteekamu ssente zigisolooza, be balina okugula ebyuma ebinaatemaatema ssente eziri ku kitundibwa, be balina okukola regisita y'ebyo byonna bye batunda, be balina okukola accounts okulaba ssente eziddayo mu revenue buli kadde. Ekyongera essente ze balina okukozesa mu bizinesi ze batajja kuddamu kufuna. Ate oli bw'asangibwa nga takoze nga bwe baagala nga bamutaddeko obukwakirizo obuzito ennyo ng'olina okusasula obukadde 6 kubanga towadde risiiti, fayini ya bukadde 6, oba akuuma bw'obanga tonakafuna fayini ya bukadde 5. Kale ebyo bye bimu ku bireetedde abantu abo. N'ekirala kubanga banaffe abeeyita ab'amakolero bafuuse baholuseera nga be b'amakolero, bafuuse baholuseera, bafuuse ba retaila abatunda kamu. Kale ne batalekawo ka gaapu yonna ey'omunnayuganda kubanga bano abangi ab'amakolero bava mu nsi endala, Bachina, Bayindi, Bazungu, naye nga be baagala batunde mu bungi, be baagala batunde kamu. In fact bangambye nti kati bateeka n'ebintu mu motoka emotoka n'ebitambuza mu byalo. So n'ayina edduuka ye eri mu tawuni naye ab'omu byalo babasanga eri mu byalo nga bano ba manufacturer mu bumotoka bwabwe era nga banoonya abaguzi mu byalo. Ekitegeeza nti omunnayuganda ye bamugidde ddala mu business. Ate nga bye bagamba nti ba manufacturer mu butuufu tebalina nnyo kye bakola. Ebintu babireeta nga biwedde babigatta bugasi ne beefuula ba manufacturer. Ate olwo nga tebawa misolo bo kubanga kati bafuuse ba investor olw'okugatta akasimu n'aleeta endabirwamu y'akasimu nga eri mu bokisi yaayo, n'aleeta kava y'akasimu eri mu bokisi yaayo, n'aleeta boodi y'akasimu eri mu bokisi yaayo, n'abugatta n'afuuka manufacturer atasasula misolo. Oluusi bamuwa n'ettaka lya bwerere kw'anaakolera emirimu gye n'ebirala. Kati n'atunda n'abanga ate atunda ebyo byayunzeyunze nga yabitunda kutuuka ne mu kyalo, ekitegeeza owaakuno talifuna naye we yeenyiga asobole kubaako kyakola. Ebirala ebireetedde abasuumuzi okutuuka ku mbeera zino enzibu lwakuba ne ssente bwe baba bawedde ebintu mu gavumenti tebasasula. Ate ebintu bye bagiwadde babiguze oluusi ku bbanja nabo ne kibaleetera okuva mu bizinesi. Essente ze bakozesa ze beewola ziri ku ssente za waggulu nnyo amagoba, ekireetera bank okuwola ku ssente ezawaggulu eza interest kiva ku gavumenti okubanga yeesinga okwewola mu zibanka zaffe eziri wano ne yeewolera ku bbeeyi ya waggulu kubanga eyagala ssente nnyingi nnyo kuva mu zibanka zaffe. Omusunguzi gy'agenderayo ng'obusente obusigadde mu banka butono bwe balwanira ebbeeyi y'essente nebanga eri waggulu nnyo nga tekyasoboka. Era nga tukimanyi nti n'abasuumuzi abangi bakosebwa nnyo biseera bya COVID bwe bateekawo muggalo nga tebakola naye nga balina kusasula lenti, balina okusasula byonna abakozi n'ebirala byonna ebitambulira ku bizinesi. Mawanga amalala gayambako be baali baggaddewo kubanga be baggalawo babayamba badde engulu, abaffe wano tebaafunayo buyambi obuli awo obutegeerekeka. Naye nga ekintu ekikulu ensonga zino n'endala nnyingi eziri mu basuumuzi teziri mu basuumuzi bokka. Oba oli mulimi era ojja kusinkana ebizibu by'ebimu. Era olwaleero abali mu mulimu gwa kulima majaani abo bafudde, abali mu pamba bafu, n'emmwanyi nazo zigenda kufuna ebizibu by'ebimu. So embeera eno etwalira wamu buli omu, n'abalimwa n'abalunzi kye kimu. Amalagala gonna agali mu katale mafu era enkwazi zitente, obulwadde bweyongedde, ekirwadde ekyo kya kalusu simanyi biki ebirwadde ebyo byonna, obutale buggale, abantu buli omu ali mu kabi. Ekireese embeera eno yonna y'enkola ey'awamu eya gavumenti ey'okubanga eggwanga lyonna likolera batono. Tukola ne batwala ne bitakomawo okutuyamba. Tukola ne batwala ne bitakomawo okutuyamba. Emisolo gino gyonna banyuunyunta ne batwala, ezimu ne babba bubbi butereevu, endala ne bazeeyagalira mu bweyagalizi nga za kwejalabya tezikolera muntu wa bulijjo, misuse. Obutono ne babukozesa nabwo ku mirimu egyandibadde tegisaana. Nti ofiisi ya chairman wa NRM eyina obuwumbi n'egula ebintu oli agende ng'agabako mu byalo. Essente zandibadde zikolera abantu bonna kyenkanyi. So enkola eno nga tenavaawo, buli omu oba oli musuumuzi oba oli ki, okulowooza nti ojja kgenda ewa mwami Museveni ng'ekizibu gye kiva, nti akuwa ekinajjawo ekizibu kyaleese, oba weerimba. Era kyampisa bubi bwe nawulira abasuumuzi bamaze okugala amaduuka biki, nti ate bawulidde ebuulizi nti waliwo agambye nti mwami Museveni yandibalaba. Ne babivaako bye babaddeko nti kati bagenda kutulaba, babalabe bakole ki? Mwami Museveni talina kyagenda kubakolera. Mwe mumuyinako obuyinza kati abatutte nga ye nannyini buli kimu, mugenda mwavula, mugenda mu maaso ge nga temulina kye mugenda kujjayo. Singa ffenna twekolamu omulimu, oba nammwe mwe kennyini abasuumuzi ne mugwekolamu nga mumaliridde, nga temwerumaaluma, era naffe ng'eno bwe twerumaaluma oluusi nga tutegedde kye tuliko. Kasita eyogera kino, bano boogera kino, ne musalawo nti tetujja kuggulawo ng'embeera yonna eno tenatereera. Ejja kutereera. Bajja kujja nga be baavula kubeegayirira, mubategeeze nti ebyokutulimba biwedde, twagala nkola ndala. Era ejja kubaawo. Nannyo singa ffenna tukwatira wamu, omusuumuzi, omusomesa, omusawo, ffenna abanyigirizibwa tukwatidde wamu ne tugamba nti Uganda etambulire ku nkola endala ey'obwenkanya. Obwenkanya bujja kudda mu ggwanga lyaffe. So nsaba basuumuzi muleme kutunuulira abalala nga abatali ku nsonga z'ezimu n'ezammwe, ensonga eri emu, butali bwenkanya obuli mu ggwanga lye, ng'abangi bakolera abatono. Gwe mutaawana gwe tulwana nagwe ffenna, tukwatire wamu tugugjewo, eggwanga lyaffe lisobole okutambula ligende mu maaso. Wangi ngeri omusolo gye gusoloozebwa ku nkola eno gye baleese egamba ekozesa kompyuta okutemaatema ssente eziri ku buli kintu kyonna omuntu kyagula. Zaawula omusolo. Bw'ogula cupa ya soda bakuwa lisiiti ng'eriko nannyini dduuka z'anaasigaza, ng'eriko omusolo gwe banaatwala, ng'eriko buli kimu. Ogwo omusolo gwo bwe bakuwa lisiiti eri mu Revenue Authority, nagwo gulaga ti dduuka ewadde omusolo gwa ssente bwe ziti, kubanga balina tiini kwe gugenda butereevu, ne bamanya musolo oguzze. Naye enkola eyo nannyo ku basuumuzi abatono ebazitoyeredde nnyo, kubanga kompyuta eyo ekola ezo risiiti gw'olina kugigula gwe nannyini dduuka. Bali omusolo gw'abali be baagala omusolo, bwe baba bandibagadde baagala obakungaanyiza omusolo, be bandireese mashini ne bagiteekawo, ne batendeka abanaagikozesa, oba oliawo ne bakuwa n'anaawandiika, kubanga ebintu byonna by'otunda olina okubiteeka mu regisita ya kompyuta nti buli ky'otunze kirage nti kivuddemu mu dduuka. So okukola regisita y'ebintu byonna n'okubanga okola akawuntisi za kompyuta zino na buli kimu, byonna byongera omusuumuzi nannyo omutono ssente z'atajja kusobola okufuna, z'alina okukozesa ye ng'omusuumuzi z'atajja kufuna. So y'ensonga lwaki enkola eno yandisigadde mu banene eri oba oliawo, oba bwe baba baagala ebune buli wamu baleete kompyuta baziteekeyo, batendeke abazikozesa, bawe n'obuyambi engeri gye zinaakozesebwa. Naye eyo enkola egenderedde era okwongera okugoba abantu baffe bamufuna mpola, kubagoba mu bizinesi, kubanga bwe basanga nti omuntu afulumya edduuka nga talina risiiti eyo, butereevu bakwagalako obukadde 6 fayini. Bwe basanga nga tonagula eyo kompyuta ate nga osaanidde kugibeera nayo, fayini ya bukadde 5 oba okukusiba emyaka 10 oba byombi kubanga okereye kugula ekinaabasololeza omusolo. N'olwekyo enkola eno si ya bwenkanya, egenderedde okusaanyaawo abasuumuzi ab'ewansi. Naye nga bwe ŋŋambye, ne bwe bagiyimiriza bajja kuyitira awalala okukunyigiriza. Kyetulina okukola ffenna awamu, lwakuba abantu baffe kibatwalidde ebbanga ddene okuwulira. Twatandika wano okwekalakaasa nga abasuumuzi batugoba mu kibuga, twagala kubonoonera bizinesi, ate muze mutonoonera bizinesi nga tebategeera nti kijja gye bali. Kati kibatuuseemu kati basaatira. So ne gwe kinatanatuukako kigenda kumutuukako. Kikulu nnyo ffenna tutegeere nti ekizibu kyajja mu ggwanga lyaffe ekitunyuunyuuta ffenna. Twekolemu omulimu ogw'awamu tukyejjeko.
Zibadde ki tujja nnyo ziwabudde yakibagana tetulina nyirabudde bwazo
wangi onga bw'owulira olutalo lwe tuliko lunene ate lwamangu, si lwa nkya lwa leero. Mu lutalo luno tetulina budde ate lwakuwuliriza nti Amuriat simanyi agambye eki, oba ayagala kgenda mu kooti oba ayagala kgenda wa, ate tunuulire naye nti naye gyali. Wano tewali kiseera ky'aba Amuriat baani, ffe tuli ku lutalo olununula ensi. Bw'aba ayagala kujja mu lutalo olununula ensi ajje tulwane, tumwaniriza. Naye bw'aba nga ali eyo akukuta n'ebintu bye, ina buddewo.
Tweyanza nnyo tweyanzege nooti tugimaze bulungi twagala okubeebaza obudde bwe mutuwadde tweyanza nnyo tweyanzege ne mukulembeze waffe tumwebaza olw'obudde bw'atuwadde. Namwajjawo yiye waliwo eno tuyitire wano.
naye Besigye beemanyi nnyo takyabitamu.
Occupation safety, 2 million per star. If you are 1 star, you pay 2 million. If you are 4 star, you pay 8 million. Copyright tax for music you play, for films they show, ground rent, trading license, restaurant license, bar license, swimming pool license, operations license, liquor license, entertainment license, payee, NSSF, and so on and so forth. On the same one business. So this is clearly, untenable. You kill the chicken that produces the eggs. The second complaint of the traders has been the management, the compliance measures to comply with the taxes. And one of the measures which is currently being complained about is that what they call EFRIS, electronic, the EFRIS is it's called electronic what? Yes, before invoicing, electronic something invoicing. But that EFRIS is about computerized direct taxation going to revenue from the business that you run. So if you are running a small shop, you have to buy a point of sale machine on which if you make a receipt, the receipt separates the tax for revenue authority and informs revenue authority the tax you have collected from this transaction. So first of all, you have to register everything you have in your business into the machine. Must make a register. Whatever is sold from your register is recorded, and tax goes direct to revenue authority. If revenue authority finds somebody on the street who does not have the EFRIS report, and they ask him or her, and she says she bought it from this shop, then you are liable to a fine of 6 million. If you forgot to give a receipt and somebody gets out of the shop without that receipt, you pay a fine of 6 million instantly. And if you haven't registered when you are supposed to have registered on that EFRIS, you pay a fine of 50 million. It's you to determine that I am liable to register. You go and register. If you haven't known that you are liable and you are found, you pay 50 million or you go to jail for 10 years. Now, we are dealing, this is why it impacts small traders. Because this is a revenue collection activity, but which the trader must invest in buying the machine, in carrying out all the registration, and in harmonizing the accounts that regularly must be remitted to the Revenue Authority. Most of our small businesses are run by people who haven't even been to school, who don't know any of all this. And the threshold for registration is very low. So I understand if you are making a sales, just if you are making sales of 450,000, then you must register. And you must buy this machine and register everything you are working on and so on and so forth. Now, secondly, this machine uses internet. So you must have internet. And the internet must be good internet connection, because otherwise it is too slow. If you have many people buying, you will not sell to them because you cannot produce the receipts at the speed which they want. So all these are just roadblocks that make it impossible for small businesses to function, because you are increasing their overheads. They must employ more staff to register all these items, to do all these things. Is simply not tenable. The other complaint on the IFRIS is that most of the importers here we have are small importers again. They combine their merchandise into one container and clear the container together and separate their merchandise to the different buyers. Now that is not allowed. Every trader must clear their items on their TIN number. So if you have 20 traders in a container, before you pay tax, you must separate the items to the 20 traders, and every trader must clear their own item under their own TIN, tax identification number. This is extremely time consuming. It's costly because each one must now have a clearing agent and so on and so forth. And again, for small businesses, they simply cannot survive. And then, of course, there is also in the compliance process, somebody, or those who have linkages with the royal family, those are the ones who will not pay taxes, and force the other ones who pay taxes out of business. The other major complaint which is valid from the traders is that the manufacturers, and these are generally or mostly foreign, Chinese, Indians, and so on, who are the manufacturers, who are given tax holidays because they are investors, and sometimes free land. They now take their merchandise and also retail it themselves. They are manufacturers, they are wholesalers, they are retailers, all at the same time, the same people. So what happens to the poor, small Ugandans? Means they have been condemned out of business, you know? And so who protects? It's like we are in a country that has simply no protection for ordinary folks, you know? So these are very, very legitimate concerns. Of course, the other concern they have, which is legitimate, is the cost of loans, the cost of money. Because most businesses are run on credit, on loans. And the interest rates are simply atrocious. The people they are competing with in the market, the foreigners, borrow at between 1 and 4%. The interest rates in China, in Europe, in Japan, they are between actually zero. Some countries have zero interest rates to about 4%. Ours start around 18%. Go on up to 30%. And of course, if you go to money lenders, that's a different story. But in the banks, you know. And what causes the high interest rates in Uganda? The biggest culprit is the same government. Because the biggest borrower, domestic borrower here, is government. The budget you hear them talking about is half borrowed from our banks, where this trader is also supposed to borrow from. And the banks will not lend to many small borrowers. They would rather lend to one borrower. It's cheaper rather than collecting from so many. You are collecting from one, and the government is generally treated as a safe borrower because they give you a check when it should mature. You just go and collect your money. So banks are not lending to business. They are lending to government. The little money that remains is what business fights over, and the taxes are very high. The one complaint, which is also, of course, amongst the business community, is that even when they pass through all that and they supply to government entities, whether central government or local governments, they are not paid. You know, the domestic carriers, people who have been thrown out of business by government because they supplied to government, you can't count them. You know, the domestic debt of Uganda now is close to 45 trillion. The amount of money that government owes to people within Uganda, not foreign debt, local debt, is about 44 point something trillion. And they supply thinking they are going to be paid next month. Then they say there was no release from finance. It goes on years and so on. And this man who had borrowed in any case from the bank to get money to supply, the bank sells his property, and that one goes back to the village. Of course, most of the business community problems intensified due to COVID. You must have seen that other countries gave huge incentives, support to business after COVID. Ours didn't. So even though the government was the one ordering closure of businesses, shut down, people had to pay rent for the period they were not working, and no support at all, nothing from government. So their capital was already depleted by all these problems. And of course, the list of complaints is endless. That's why I said the problem is not just business. And our business community, this message is directed to them because they don't get it up to now. My sense is that they don't get it, where their troubles come from and how they will be solved. They don't get it. They had started an activity, then they had a rumor that Mr. Museveni was going to meet them. And they They said, okay, now we are going to get a solution. They abandoned the activity. When they went, they said, no, we don't know anything about you. Now they are back, saying, no, nobody's caring about us, they are back. They are not. You cannot get a solution from the problem itself. How can you? The problem is where they are going, where they hope they will get a solution. You can't. They don't get it up to now. The problem for business is the same problem for agriculture. All people who are in the tea industry are now bankrupt. Everyone in the tea industry is bankrupt. Why? Because there is no support for the industry. Although it is certainly a big industry, a big earner for the country, could be a big earner, no support. Tea is now between 150 and 200 shillings a kilo. So all those Toro farms, you are going to find them with bushes very soon. Very, very soon. They will all be forests. Because there is no way anybody can maintain them at that cost. Cotton collapsed. There is no more cotton. So another problem actually traders have is that government said they are protecting local manufacturers. So they, for example, said you cannot import textiles. We want to protect the local textile manufacturers. But there are no local textile manufacturers. Maybe Nigeria, which still buys the little cotton that is around. All others are importing. They are importing textiles and processing them here, protected by the government against other importers, that they are manufacturers. So you are not supposed to import textiles. First of all, the local even that what they call local manufacturing produces about 5% of Uganda's needs. And this 5% is also imported. In fact, what they call manufacturers here, they are assemblers. They are not manufacturing anything. Somebody brings a phone, like these phones, he removes the cover and brings covers in different box. He brings the board of the phone in a different box. He brings the glasses in a different box. It is cheaper to transport it that way anyway. They bring here, they fix them, say, we are making phones in Uganda. Nonsense. And nobody should bring phones because we are making phones. So you get a monopoly for making phones when you are not making any phone. That is, so the monopolies are monopolies again of those same characters that have caused trouble for Uganda. All those monopolies, you trace them, they will be traceable to the same royal family. All of them. Denying everybody else business, leaving it for just the selected people. So if you want to import textile, the tax you pay, because it is protected, you pay tax according to kilos of the textile you have imported, not according to the value. every kilo, you pay a tax of $3.5 for every kilo. If it is a garment, cloth alone, you pay $3 per kilo. This is huge amount of money that you cannot have, plus of course all the other taxes that I mentioned, VAT, what, not, all the others. So the point we are making here this morning is that this crisis in business will not go away and is not limited to business. It is across the board of the country. Everybody is on the wall. Whether you are a farmer, including even the cattle keepers, they are on the wall because no acaricide works, no medicines are all fake, and you end up with the disease problem that we have in the animal industry, foot and mouth disease, I don't know, ECF, I don't know which ones, or crippling the animal industry. So the crisis, it all comes from the same place. So let businessmen say they will not work with us because we are in politics. No, it is the same politics that is affecting everyone. Let's unite and resolve this. So my message is direct to the business community as it is to all other groups in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, our leader. If there are questions?
The EFRIS, I understand, is electronic physical receipting and invoicing system. Physical receipting, in other words, receipting for the monies that are received or invoiced.
Any question? Yes?
Your solution to them is changing the system. Could you try to be a bit clear which system and nowadays?
So for example, all the money that the government is using comes from them. A lot of the greatest majority comes from the business community. If they took a decision to say we shall not open until all this, the system itself even changes, it can happen. So why should they be called to see Museveni? Museveni should come on his knees to beg them, and they will tell him, no, we are not going to allow this, because they are the ones who keep him. It's that they haven't appreciated the power that they have, you see? And this is what I'm inviting them to do, because they are divided, just like happens with us in the politics. You hear Kasita is saying something different, the other federation is saying something different. Let all of them unite, say the same thing. We want a different system. We are not going to pay our money for stealing in the government. We are going to pay our money that when we are borrowing at these rates, we are not going to do that. When you are the one taking money that does not serve us, you know, they should be more fundamental. And we will be happy ourselves, because we have said all this time that the struggle in Uganda is not a partisan struggle. This is why, you know, we also miss it if we think the struggle is about contesting elections and so on. It's liberation. It's about the country being liberated from a few people who have captured it and who use it for their own purposes rather than for the purposes of everybody. Yeah.
Any other question? Yes, Orenya and NTV.
Welcome back from tour. I'm sorry this is a little bit away from this. But then your brother in the struggle comes to point here and threatened publicly to drag him to court for allegedly using party symbols and color in your just concluded tour in the way. You might want to react to this.
Yeah, maybe you didn't hear me correctly. I just said that, you know, the struggle is not about these parties, really. It's about getting the country out of captivity. Whether it's Katonga, whether it's Najanankumbi, whether it's DP, whether we are all captives. So I can't spend even the blinking of my eye paying attention to what Amuriat is saying. It's inconsequential. I can't, you know, I have no time to listen to those kinds of things. There is a big problem that we must sort of urgently. People dying every day who shouldn't be dying. You are talking about symbols? You want to go about symbols? Symbols, I imagine he means whether I should, you know, and I pay attention to to somebody who's still stuck in those kinds of things. No. What we must do is to invite everyone, NUP, DP, FDC, whatever you call yourself, NRM, those who are trapped in NRM, let's get together and free the country. Yeah. So we have no time for, you know, just people seeking attention.
Yes, your question?
First of all, tax regimes are also ideological. There are people who believe we should tax very highly and do for people even things the people are able to do for themselves. I don't come from that background of ideology. I think we should only tax people to do things for them that they themselves cannot do. Only tax to do public goods. You may have heard me talk about government not wasting money with the PDM things, because that's not their business. People can borrow money if they want to borrow money. Focus on making sure that public goods are there. Because what is the purpose of giving money to a villager that is going to help the villager out of poverty when there is no health care? As soon as you give them money, they take it to pay for their health. When education is unaffordable, when there are no roads to take their commodities to the markets, when there is no clean water, things that you cannot do for yourself, you know? That's what government should focus on. And that's why we shouldn't tax people highly. But secondly, I have made the point repeatedly in different campaigns, and I made it here also, that if you have a very high tax regime, you actually collect less money because people won't buy. You know, if you put 500 shillings on a bottle of soda and soda becomes 1,000 shillings, maybe you'll have 100 people drink it and you collect 50,000 if it is 500 shillings on a bottle. But if you put 100 instead of 500 and a bottle of soda is 500, you may find 1,000 people drink it. You are just collecting 100, but you have collected 100,000. The one who was collecting 500 has collected 50,000. So a high tax regime doesn't mean high revenue. And this is why, yet it penalizes people. It is punitive. Because I enjoy taking my tea with sugar, but I can't afford it. Yet, if I afforded it and took sugar, I would be happy. The government would also be happy. Because the tax was low, the sugar was affordable. So, the exact rates can be, can be figured out. Whether VAT should be 18% or 14% or 15% or whether which tax should be where can be rejigged. But because you also have tailored what the expenditure is. And of course, the other thing is the corruption, that you tax people and it is all taken away by corruption. Whatever it is, whether you are taxing highly or lowly, it doesn't affect those who pay the taxes. It is stolen. So these are the critical things that I think the whole country should really put their focus on. I heard, for example, they are saying that we are going to increase salaries of soldiers. Wonderful. But that announcement itself may increase the cost of commodities. You increase the price of the salary of soldiers by 2 times, the commodities increase by 3 times. So have you really increased the salaries or you have decreased them? So if you don't sort out the fundamentals, people will continue suffering. You make only cosmetic changes. And the changes that will stop this must change the whole system of control from family rule to popular sovereignty, where every Ugandan is the owner of this country, not when the country is owned by a handful of people. That is the reform that is fundamentally needed.
Thank you so much.
Pardon? Well, the consultations are still at an early stage. And they are for the party. I think the party maybe will address issues dealing with the party. I'm not a party leader. I accompany them because I have an interest also. Not so much actually with the discussion about how to organize the party, but with how the country gets out of this crisis. As I have said, it won't only take FDC, it will take everybody to get out of this. So yes, it's good for FDC to be organized as part of the, elements to solve the problem, but it will not solve it in and of itself.
So I think we're done with questions. Twagala kubebaza tusaba ndoza Dr. mu bufunze abakolere gundi ye y'Oluganda nga bwe